Hey, my name's Al from Redart, and today we're going to be painting a canvas with a family of 5 penguins on it. Um, this one's not too hard a painting. It's got basically it has 4 colours. I've added a 5th colour in so I don't have to mix it, which is the grey, and you could make it with the black and white. We've also got an orange. We've got a blue that I can lighten up for the sky, and white for the penguins and orange for the beaks. Right, so I'm using a 40cm by 50cm canvas, primed canvas. I've already stenciled on the penguins onto the canvas. I've only done a quick job of it, and if you want the stencil and the instructions on how to do it, follow the link below and you can get the stencil from us. So I've got these paints here. These are acrylic premium paints. Now, I haven't used these paints very often. They're a lot stronger, a lot bolder colours, but they also dry a lot quicker, and it's not what I'm used to using. That's the thing about your paints and your paintbrushes. Like anything, you've got to get used to using them a lot. So this is a bit of a trial by error, this painting, because I've left all my paints that I normally use, all the acrylics at the shop, and today I'm painting at home. Now, I would normally start painting with the background, but because the penguins there's a lot of white in the background. White is a colour you don't really want to paint over. So if I paint the background first and I need to paint over it with white for the penguins, white acrylics are very translucent. You can see through them. So this time I'm not going to start with the background. I'm going to start with the penguins' bodies, which are white. Now with the canvas, the paints like to stick to canvas when you first brush on the paint. So the canvas, it's like a claw and it grabs onto it. So what I'm going to do is give it a base coat so that it's got a wet surface. So I'm going to paint all the parts of the penguins white. Now I just remembered I forgot to get some water for the painting. Debbie,
Yeah.
can you give me some water, please? Thank you. Yes, she's laughing at me. Now the stencil I put on white with the acrylic white, you can see through it, so it doesn't matter if I go over the lines. I'm just making the surface workable. Now, as you can see, I'm working pretty hard to get this white into the canvas, so it's better off if I water it down, and then the water will seep into the canvas. Here we go.
Hi.
Thank you. So I'm just going to add some water to that. Now there, it's nice and easy. You can feel the paint
Extra water.
flow. Thank you very much. You can feel that paint flowing in quite easily now. So I'll just start with one penguin. I've done the base white because I know that these paints do dry pretty quick. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to use a bit of grey and just do some shading on the edge of the penguin, down the bottom of the penguin, and just put some curves into the body in certain spots. And then I'm going to blend. Now when you blend, it seems to be something people struggle with, and I keep having to explain to people, this is the way you blend. You add a little bit of the darker colour into the lighter colour. Then you might have to put some water on your brush to make it blend easier, but then you use your brush very lightly to mix the two colours together. If I start doing it real hard, it's just going to start scraping paint off, and the paint doesn't blend, it just removes it. So I'm doing it lightly, and you can see now there I've got that grey effect on the penguin in his belly. Now I'm using a flat brush for that. I'm going to go to a medium-sized flat brush and get closer to the edge down the bottom just to make him a little bit darker. And just I'm going to use the big brush again and lightly blend that belly of the penguin. Nice and easy. Now, if I'm going to put, I've noticed there's a lot more grey in there than white. If I want to go back to white, I have to get the bright paint off my brush because it's now contaminated with the grey. When I mean contaminated, I mean that whatever's grey that's on that brush is going to always end up on that white that I put on the canvas. So I get all the grey off, and then I can lighten up with white. The bits that I want to pop out, so the front of his belly there is going to pop out. He's got a bit of a belly, a bit like mine. And I might just pop out that top edge before the top. So there we go. I'll go on to the next one now. Once again, get some watered down white paint. And I'm just going to wet that canvas with the watered down white paint. And if you've got a paint that's a lower quality paint, and it you have to do like 10 coats before it works properly, don't water it down, just keep putting the thick coats on if you can. But this paint's pretty good, this premium. This paint that I'm using is it's a Dimensions acrylic from Montmartre, and it applies pretty well. So now I'm going to get the grey. Now there's a little penguin here. I want him to pop out from the one behind, so we're going to darken the area behind the penguin so the white of the one in front will pop out. Wipe the grey off my brush, and then blend it lightly with light brushing and get that paint to blend. Like, I might sound a bit like an old father figure here when I say you've got to learn to use your tools right. It is so important with the brush to learn how the brush works and spreading that paint. Once you know your tools, you can paint anything you want. Oh, now I've got this. Where's his beak? These beaks there. I forgot to draw in a bit. I'll make this bit a bit grey because I want his head, this head to pop out. And as you can see, I'm going over the lines because I can see the lines through the paint. Wash the brush out because I'm now going to apply white again. I don't want any grey in the brush. And see, I've got a bit of paper here that I hold in my left hand. Always wiping my brush in the paper. When it's full, throw it, grab another one. So, that's his belly done. Now we go to this one here. Same process. White on. And now I'll start applying a bit of grey so his head will pop out above that. It's a shadow from his head. I don't want to rub all the way into the white because then that grey will start contaminating it. So I'll get that grey out and work it back with water. There we go. Get a bit of shading down that area. Yeah, that's good. But I'm going to put some more white back in there in a sec. And get some shade down the bottom because his belly goes under. I want some white. Penguin number 4. Right, so got him all white. Now of course if you're going to paint this off our stencil, I'll also give you a reference picture. So that's what I'm doing. On my screen to the left I've got a picture that I'm looking at so I know what I'm painting where. So there's a shadow under his belly. Alright, get that grey off. Lightly blend some white into it. Yeah, that's good. You've also got to know when to stop. Sometimes you can just go too far and overblend, but that'll come with experience. I'll get some white on that leg. Right, now I'm going to stop using that bigger brush, get that medium size flat, because I've just got to do these areas in the eyes. Once again, I don't have to worry about the lines, I can see them through the paint. Yeah, good. Oh, we forgot the little baby. So put a base coat of white, wet the canvas. Excuse me. Pinch of grey. Now when that, like, it's very important that you only use small amounts of the darker colour when you're applying it to a lighter colour. So I'm only just pinching a little bit of grey into it, otherwise it just overpowers it too much. Just a pinch of grey. Now I'm using grey paint. If you don't have grey paint, just put a dot of black and a whole lot of white. Once again, just a small amount of the darker colour, the black. Some grey up under his head because it's a bit shadow. Now I'm just about finished doing this white section. If you want a coffee, this is probably a perfect opportunity to go get a coffee. Give the paint a chance to dry if you want to, or get the hairdryer out and dry it, or just keep painting. I'm just seeing a spot over here where it should be a bit more white. There. So, now I've done that white section, I don't have to worry about the white anymore. The only other white I'm going to be using pretty much is in the snow they're standing on and the sky. These areas up here are going to be black. Black is super strong, takes over everything, and if I paint black over any colour, it will be covering that colour pretty well, and it's hard to paint over black. So I'm going to leave the black to last. I'm not going to do that. The beaks and the tips of the wings are going to be orange. They're just the final finish bits that you put on. So next I'm going to go to the background. I've done the white, now I'm going to do the background. Now skies. When you mix paint for a sky, the best way I can describe of doing a sky is, first I'm going to give it a base of white. To wet it. You can see here I'm painting vertical strokes. I don't finish with vertical strokes. There are no vertical strokes in the sky. They're pretty much horizontal. So my sky is going to be light blue at the top, dark blue at the bottom. So once I paint the top white, I'm pretty much just using water here just to spread that white paint around. Now I've got the paint workable, the back workable, I am going to get a pinch, just a pinch of blue. You can't even see it on there. Just a pinch of blue and add it to that white. And look how strong that takes over that sky. Just that pinch of paint. I want it to be very close to white, so I'm going to spread that even more with some water. And just by adding that little bit of blue into that sky, into the white, look how strong and how it spreads. Now skies, you don't want to over blue your sky. It's easily done. Skies are really light coloured blues. Now the problem with acrylics is, generally acrylic paints when they dry darker than what you've painted it on. So keep it light as you can. Just spread that one a bit. Now, that's just a flat sky. Flat is boring. I'm going to give it a bit of texture. I can do crisscrosses. Now notice I'm using the lighter colour to give it texture. If I start adding darker colours, you lose control of it. So you work back to the lighter colours. And I'm just going to give the feel of these angled clouds with a bit of white paint. Watery, and it's watery white paint. And I'm just splattering these clouds like a blurry effect of clouds in the background. Don't get into too much detail with this because we want the focus to be on the penguins. Now, as I go down, I'm going to get darker and darker to my horizon line. So, I'm building this down. And I'll do the same on this side. Got too much on there, so I'm going to scrape that off. clean my brush, give it a wipe, add some white to it and blend it. Once again, I know these spots are black, so I can paint into them and not worry about how the sky. I don't have to worry about where the edge of the penguins are here. So it's getting darker and darker as we go down. Get those cloud bits into it. Just bits of white paint within it. And now I'm going to go more blue. Oops, I've gone into that white. Put it off. Get rid of the blue out, so I can now spread it with water and lightly blend it so it blends up. Get rid of those vertical strokes, going more for a horizontal stroke. Wipe the blue off. And the same on this side. Just straighten up that edge there. Tidy that up with a bit of white paint later, the edge of the penguin. Well, I'm just having a look from a bit of a distance to see where it needs a bit more blending. There's a bit here that's a bit rough. I'm just using water on my brush just to lightly blend that out. This bit over here. Bring it down a bit. The water does a lot of work with acrylics. Okay, so now I'm going to do, I'm thinking I might do the back, I should do the ice that they're standing on. But the problem with that is, that's where my hand is leaning. Maybe it's not a good idea to do it yet. I might do some of the black, so I'm not worried about my hand going into the paint. So the black, I'm just using a small to medium round brush. Where is the camera? There it is. I'm going to add some water to my black. Now black, you don't use hardly any black. It goes a long way. So before I do that, I'll just show you, if I dip my paintbrush into black and paint, you can see in the canvas that the paint isn't absorbing into the canvas on the primer. That's the problem with acrylics, or a lot of paints, different types of paints on canvas. With a rough texture and the primer on it, and the canvas wanting to absorb all the water that's in the paint out of it, the best way to is add more water. Now I've just added more water to the paint, and look at that, that runs smooth. If I add too much water to the black becomes translucent. You just got to get that balance where it stays black and flows easily. Now I'm just following those lines. In fact, I don't even know what line I've put there. I've made a mistake up here for some reason, and I'm going to have to paint that out in a minute. That's because I rushed remote stenciling. Now the black, I have to make sure the lines are precise, because you can't paint, you can paint over black, but quite often the black will come through whatever colour you're painting. So I'm doing all the edges here. So I'm just filling it in now. So this part here, when I copied my stencil on, I made an error with that. So I'll fix that up after the black dries fully with a bit of sky. If you do add too much white to the black, once it dries a bit, just go over it with more black and it'll get rid of those see-through, the translucent parts. Well, there's one little beak. I'll put this wing down here. No, I'm not going to go all the way down, because I'm going to paint that background first. I'm just doing the edge.
Looking good?
Yeah, it's looking good. Add a bit of water, helps you get that straighter line. Now when you're doing lining with black, don't go like this, because you'll never get that straight line going like this. You got to do it smooth flow all the way down. Practice it first if you need to. Now here I'm pushing the brush down so it spreads out and fills up that spot, but when I do up little smaller areas, I just use the tip of the brush. Now this one, whoop, too much paint. Use a bigger brush for this bit. Okay. You see here my arm's resting on the canvas. That's why I didn't paint the bottom section yet. Now you'll learn to not get frustrated with following the lines from the stencil exactly. It's not like a jigsaw. You don't have to be perfect with every piece. No one notices it. And quite often, you won't even notice it yourself after you've done it. So you can ad lib it a little bit with some of the lines. Unless it's a nose or, unless it's a nose or something. Every time I make those mistakes, wipe them off really quickly while the paint's still wet and hasn't absorbed into the canvas. Okay, down here. Always have in mind, this is the way I look at it, is if I'm painting a picture, you don't want it to be exactly like what the one you're basically copying or looking at. You want to be creative and turn it into your own. Change things around. I've seen some people do some crazy things with some of my artworks before, and they come out a lot better than what I've painted them. And I always think to myself, oh, geez, why didn't I think of that? That's a good idea. And at times when you do see someone that's done something really good and you try to mimic sort of how they did it, it never turns out the same. Everyone's different. Everyone has a different way of doing things. As long as you enjoy it. Bumping and crashing into everything here. Okay. You notice that when I work generally left to right. Just like you're reading a book, left to right. When you're writing something, you write left to right. Start at the top, work down this way. And the reason is, as you're going this way, you're putting your hand in less wet paint. If I'm working across this way, I'm going to be rubbing my hand across it. So it's good practice to work from left to right when you can. There's some spots here that I will have to touch up with white. Try to avoid that as much as you can. Alright, we're going to do this fella. Just using the tip of my brush. To get the fine points, you just use your tip so you're not spreading the brush out. Let me know what you think of it, any ideas or different ways of doing things. It's always great to hear other people's opinions and feedback. Everyone's different, everyone does things different ways, of course, but the more knowledge you get, the better you're going to be at your art. Move that paint out a little bit. See some of these spots I'm going to have to give a second coat of the black. It's a bit watery. I'm not going to do these fins until I've done this bloke. Don't want to drag my hand through. This paint's actually working out alright, I don't mind it. So this bloke's face is small, so I'm only going to use the tip of my brush. Or go to a smaller brush, but I know I can achieve it just with the tip. Once again, if you make a mistake, get a wet cloth. Quite often I'll have a wet cloth, a Wet-X or whatever they're called, and it's perfect for rubbing off mistakes. So this is a little bit of a fiddly bit around his head there. And as you can see, there's the image over here that I'm working off. There's an image of me, that's quite scary. There's a picture of Deb's phone. We've got cameras everywhere for this. They said, it's easy, just do some videos, put some videos on YouTube and Instagram, and look at the setup. So now I'm going to just got this little bit around his neck.
Thank you.
And once again, just using the tip of the brush. Their eyes are black, but I'll do them last. We're going to do his wing. How's it go? It goes down. Like that, down like that, then out. So I can't see the lines here, so I'm making them up myself. Doesn't matter. No one will ever know the difference, and If they say something, you just say, yep, that's the way I meant to do it. Now I know my water is, because I've been using a lot of black here, any paint that I use after this is going to be contaminated with dirty water, so I'm going to have to change that before I go back to the lighter colours. Right, so I'll just have to do some touch-ups on those feet when I get back to them. I've also missed, oh, there's a mistake, accidentally touched the brush when I was using it as a pointer. Get rid of it straight away. I've missed the, oh, I haven't missed it, it's because it's the ground, the snow, so I've got to paint that before I can finish that bit off. And I've missed a bit of the white here. I'll come back to it. I'll do this bit a bit later, and I can do the fin later. I can do this fin here. Right, I'm going to hold off for the black now, except for this bit. I just saw another bit. There's a beak, yeah, I'm going to have to paint over that black with the orange when I do that, because there's a beak that comes down over the black. Because I'm going to have to cover black with a lighter colour, I'll just do it with a really thick amount of paint. It's only a small amount, so I'll get away with it. Now notice, I am quite quick. Well, I know I'm a lot quicker than some. The more you do, the quicker you'll get at it. And sometimes you'll learn that try not to be too fussy, unless you're going for a highly realistic artwork. Try not to get too fussy with how it looks, because it's not a photo, it's an artwork. It should be looked at subjectively. I'll just touch up those bits. A lot of my paintings that I do are highly detailed, and it's laborious work. So this style of painting is a little bit more enjoyable, I would say, because I don't have to focus so much on doing every fine little bit. Right, so now I'm looking at it thinking, where will I go from here? I'm still going to leave this bottom bit because I know I'm still leading on it. So now I'm going to work on some of those beaks. So I'm just using some orange paint. Trying not to put my fingers in wet paint. And just using the tip to fill it in. And the bottom edge of this beak I'm going to give a bit of black just to show a bit of shading. I just get a pinch of black, run it along that bottom edge. Don't overdo the black. Nice and smooth flow. Try not to do the jerky thing. There's one beat. I've got this wing, I'll come back to that later, it's too low. Let's do this tip of this wing. So this is going to be a long straight line. So I'm going to water down the paint, not too much. So I can just do a long straight quick line. The quicker you do it, I'm going to go over that black because I can fix up the black side of it. Quicker you do it, the straighter you'll be. I'll come back to that black and go over it, tidy it up. Another beak here. You see a little bit, I've got a little bit of black paint in that brush that's contaminating it. Just enough I can get away with it. And then I've got to put that tip, I've got to put more orange on that tip to cover that black. The black's wet still, so it's coming through. I'm going to have to come back to that. I'll do the shading at the bottom edge of the beak. Just lightly brush it to get all the edges out. The real problem a lot of people have with shading is they'll do the darker colour, the lighter colour, but when they blend it, you can still see lines where the colours aren't blended. You've got to get all those lines out as much as you can. The next beak, where does this one go? If you lose your lines and you're not sure where you're going, you can always dry it out, let it dry, come back to it, put the stencil over the top, get it exactly where you need it, and go over the stencil again. It's not covering the black. That's what I mean, the darker colour it always takes over. So you have to let that dry. No, that's got to dry out. Right, we got top of this wing. That one, this beak, I'm going to make for a bit too much black, just a pinch of black and get it in that bottom beak. Because the top beak will be over there, see there's too much black, so I'll Wipe some of that out. Get some orange on my brush, wipe it off. Get some more orange on my brush so I'll get out that black out. So that big. The wing all white. Right, I'm going to just tidy up that black bit. Now sometimes you'll get to a stage where you'll go, I just got to walk away. Do it. If you got to walk, if you feel like you need to walk away from it and come back. It's always a good idea. Every once in a while, take 4 or 5 steps back and have a look at your picture from a distance. Because at the moment what I'm doing is I'm focusing on this one little spot. I'm not actually seeing the whole time. I'm not actually seeing my entire picture. To do that, you've got to separate yourself from the artwork. Take 5 steps back, have a look at it, and you'll see problems that you wouldn't have seen when you're up close. That's good enough. This bit orange. Just doing a bit of tidying up here of spots. Now you can't see where that neck's coming down, so what I'm going to do, get a bit of grey. And I'm going to run some grey down. So where's it go to? Down to there. And I'm just going to get some water on my brush and blend that into the black. A bit more grey. So I'm trying to make it pop out from the background. But at the moment I've got a little bit too much water on it. And here you can see the difference between the black and the grey. So that's what I need to, I'm going to put a bit of black on the brush this time. I need to blend it to get that separate, get it to flow from grey to black. Just tidying up that black edge because I went a bit too far. That'll do. That'll do for that bit. Now, I'm at the stage now where to finish off the bottom, I can do the eyes. Let's do the eyes. How's that eye look? He goes a bit like a football. I gotta bring that black. Just going to fix up this neck bit. Right. This eye. Now of eyes. Doesn't matter what animal it is, you will see a hint of white in the eyeball, which reflects whatever light source there is, the sun, a light bulb or whatever. It will reflect in that eyeball. If you don't see the reflection, it's because it's pitch black and you won't see the picture anyway because it's in the night time. So I'm going to get some white on my brush, just on that tip. Just give it a flicker of white. There we go. Just touch up some of those whites. The brush is a bit thick. I could have used a smaller brush. Okay. I'm at the spot now where I need to paint that bottom section. So I'm going to paint that snow, ice, whatever it is. Now it's white. That's the most obvious part. I've got to use fresh water with white. If I use my contaminated water, it'll just come out grey. Now, even though the snow on the ice is white, it's going to reflect the light from the sky. So it's going to have the light blue in it. That's going like that. I'll get it all wet first. I'll fix that ring up later. There's a spot there that I missed with the penguin. I'll fix that up too. Now, this is a problem a lot of people, beginners particularly, make. The horizon height. So on this side, I'm going to measure from the bottom and I'm going to measure up to there so they're the same height. Now I want to get all my strokes horizontal, and it's going to have a little bit of blue in the white. I'm not going to overly blend this time. Once again, I want it to look a bit blurry. Don't want to take away the penguins out of the picture. So you blur the parts that aren't important. Bit of white paint in that. That's contaminated. I'll have to wipe my brush. Notice I'm going the strokes straight through where I can. It looks messy if you only go up to certain spots and don't have that flow running behind the main characters. Ooh, fresh water. Nice long horizontal strokes. Now, probably a little bit too blue, but I don't want to overwork it. I might put a bit more white in. Now I have to be careful that I don't put my hand in it. More paper. Okay, I'm going to start left to right, finishing off these penguins. Let's do the orange first. Once again, I'm painting this orange over the black because I know I can recover the black to fix up that edge. It's the right edge that meets the white that I'm being careful with. Next bit of orange. Chicken feet. That's when I drew it. That's what I drew, chicken feet. So I'm just doing a base coat with the chicken feet. Still got to finish that bit. That wings done. 1, 2, 3 baby paws. One. I gotta put a thick bit of white over these to make it look like he's sitting behind it. 2. 3, you can see that black coming through there. We'll do a bit of orange on his tips of his wings. his beak. Do some more on these peaks now that the black's dried out a bit. This bit I don't want to water down the paint at all, need it to be thick. This is one of those cases where I'm not used to using these paints. Just a bit more experience needed with it. That's what I'm doing here, getting more experience. Too much paint on my brush here. So I've discovered with this paint, some of these colours you need to put on pretty thick to layer it. Orange is one. This foot, chicken foot. Remember, if you want the stencil for this painting, the link should be below the video. Plus we'll have plenty more eventually on. Right, now I'll tidy up the black bits, and then it'll be a case of just doing the bits I know I need to correct. Once I've done that, all the little mistakes that need tidying up, that I was better off letting them dry out and then come back to them. Black. Yep. And we'll black up here. Put a little black line down there just to differentiate the bulb. These eyes in. Come back and put some white dashes in it. I need to tidy this section up too, I'll come back to that. Right. Paws. Claws. Just giving that impression. See, there's no detail going into these parts. I did miss this bit here. Right, now this is where I'd stand back, have a look, work out what changes and what things I need to fix up. I need to fix this bit up here, I'll do that now. Clean brush, clean paper. Make it wet, get a bit of blue, pinch more. And I'll get the small brush with the black, fix up that outline again. Okay, that's that bit fixed. It's got the same straight edges with a bit of white paint because I did these white bits first. They need to pop out from the background a little bit in some spots. So I'll just give it that white edge. There's a spot down here. Blend it into the background. Whenever I'm blending, it's always a good practice to wipe your brush, get everything off your brush. So I'm just doing that leading edge. Use my finger to blend it. the whites of his eyes. Right, last thing. Just going to use a big brush because I don't want to use detail for this part. I'm going to get a bit of white, just a pinch of black or grey, just to give it a grey tinge. Oh, too much. What I'm doing is I'm creating shadows and a pinch of blue. So it's a light grey. Get all the gunk out of my brush. That brush is too big, I'm going to go to a smaller brush. And I just want to create, there's a tail there that I missed too. Just a feel of a bit of a shadow. Don't overdo this. It's just where a shadow would be. And they're horizontal lines. I'm going to put a white bump of, tidy this edge up with a little hillock of snow. Just tidying up the bottom of his feet there. Now I did forget this fella's tail. I'll call that, this bit. I could keep going forever and ever tidying up bits of this picture. You'll find that you're never 100% happy with what you've done, the final product. You'll never be perfect though, so you just got to accept. And at some stage you just got to go, no, that's it. And quite often if you do take it too far, you end up making more mess, like I'm doing now. Yep, like I'm doing now, making more mess than what I need to. Alright, there we go. Just a bit of white. See, more mess. You're always going to find these little things that will need to change when you should have just left them. I am going to call that finished. Once again, if you want the stencil, link below. Check out our other pictures. Hope you enjoyed it. I had good fun painting it. See you next time.